And he's like, okay, I'll call the landlord. He hangs up. I called the landlord in lightning speed. I gave George his phone. I was on Kakao Talk calling the landlord ASAP, no Rocky. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video will be another story time. This story time is actually a story time that I have done on my members only, but I think I'll end up telling it a little different because I told it like a year or two ago on my members only. This story happened I think 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a while since this story happened, so I'm probably going to remember the details a little bit differently. So if you want to check out the original story time, make sure you join my members only and you can see the story time on there. Also, after this story time, I will be filming another story time, a new story time for my members only. So make sure you join the members only, okay? If you want to hear more stories about my little cuckoo life in Korea, make sure you join the membership, okay? So today's story time is gonna be about literally, I think at the time, the only person I hated in Korea. And I say at the time because now 4 people have been added on. I have a total of 5 people in Korea I do not mess with. I don't like y'all. I don't want to ever see y'all like y'all dead to me. I feel like that about these 5 people, but at that time it was only this one person that I actually genuinely hated, okay? Anyways, I'm gonna take y'all back. I think this is, as I said, I think this is 4 years ago. I used to live in, this is the apartment that I was living before this loft apartment that I'm in right now. This apartment was owned by a Canadian Korean. So he was Korean, but he spoke English pretty decently. He worked in Canada for a really long time. Like the whole family spoke English to a certain point. So I was really cool with my landlord. Like my landlord, like when I tell y'all, if that house was not too small, I would have lived there till the end of my time in Korea. I loved that house, mostly because of the landlord. Even though this house, I do like this house because I don't even know who the landlord of this house is. I think she's somewhere in like Australia or America or something. So I never have to deal with her. We just deal with like somebody who manages the apartment. But that's the point. That apartment, I love that apartment. Like we were like this, me and my landlord, we were like this, and he lived on top of me in like the quote-unquote penthouse that was in the building. So anyways, the point I'm trying to make here before I get into the story is me and my landlord were cool. I paid my rent on time. We always spoke. I was very respectful to him and his wife. Like it was just all good vibes, right? So at the time I was with my ex. We're gonna call him George. We're gonna call him George. So I was with George at the time, right? George used to come over to my place a lot, but George has a car. So it's still funny to this day that this man hates taking the subway. Like, I'm like, I love y'all subway. He hates the Korean subway and he's Korean. He would usually come to my apartment and he would park. So the way my apartment was structured is the top was apartment buildings and then the bottom we had an art school and we had a cafe and a nail salon that ended up turning into a restaurant. So it was businesses at the bottom and then at the top was the residences and then B1 was the parking lot, right? So the parking lot was downstairs, but next to the cafe, which is in the same building, there were 3 extra parking spots that were outside. Like you didn't have to like check into the building or anything. You could just park there and go upstairs if you wanted. So George was coming at that time and I knew he was gonna come with his car. So I needed to ask permission from the landlord if he could park inside because I had a parking spot in my building, but because I didn't move in with the car, I gave it up because I was like, I'm not gonna buy a car. Like I don't need the parking spot. So I didn't get the parking fob. Like it's a key that you have to press to get into the parking lot. So I didn't have that, so I couldn't give it to George. Oh, also let me also put this out there. I was cool with everyone who had a business downstairs. If I ever saw him, if I ever saw them, I would say hi. I would like bow, like a slight bow to just acknowledge their presence. This being the cafe owner, the art teacher, like everybody was. I never had a problem with anybody in this neighborhood. Like even the real estate agent loved me. Like I was super nice to like everybody there because we have to coexist together in this space. So even the cafe owner who was a man in his like, I would say he was like 45 but very hippie looking, like long hair, super skinny, smoked a lot, like very hippie look, right? Anyways, back to George coming to the apartment. So George comes this day. I had called the landlord before George came, and I'm like, hey, my friend is gonna come to my apartment today. Is it okay if he parks at one of the 3 parking spots that are outside of the parking lot? Because I didn't have the key fob. And he was like, of course you can park there, like that's fine. So mind you, I have gotten permission from the landlord for my friend to park next to the guy's cafe where the 3 extra parking spots for the building are. Y'all got that, right? Okay, because that's very important. So anyway, George ends up coming. He came around like, I would say like 2 p.m.-ish. So everybody's business was still open. The cafe is the one that was near the parking spot. So George parks, I go say hi, I'm like super happy to see him. And he parks, he locks the car. And as soon as he locks the car, he has I don't even know what type of, it's a Beamer, but like, it's not a small Beamer. It's it's not an SUV either. I don't know how to call it. Like if I see, no, I can't even show you guys a picture. But when one of the videos, like my vlogs on YouTube with him, you can kind of see the car, but I never showed the outside. But it's a bigger Beamer car, right? So he parks, and then I see the cafe owner. We're gonna call him dumbass. I can't call him that. We're gonna call him idiot. We're gonna call him goats. You said that's goats, huh? He's UG. UG, useless goat. So I see UG like rush out of his cafe, and he comes out in Korean because he knew I knew Korean. In Korean, he's like, you can't park here. This parking spot is for customers. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, me and George are so confused because I'm like, this man knows I live in this building, and I have been living in this building for the last 2+ years. Like I lived in this building before he even made his cafe in this building. That's how long I was in this building. So he knows I live here. So I'm looking at George, and I'm just like, I called the landlord and he said I can park here. And I'm staying in like the most confused look because I'm like, why is UG yelling at me right now? Like we are in cordial terms. Like there was no hi, there was no, oh, did you guys ask the landlord if you can park there? There was none of that, no formalities at all. He just came out yelling at me. This is another thing when I say like, old men in Korea will think they can just yell at you because you're a young woman. Just yelling for no reason, okay? Mind you, there's 2 empty spots. There's 2 empty parking spots, and then there's like a disabled parking that's also there, but nobody uses it. But there's 2 empty spots, so it's not like we're parked on all the spots, right? So I'm like, but I called the landlord, and the landlord said I can park here. Like, I'm just like, you're arguing with the wrong person, sir. Like, I asked whoever's above you, being the landlord, and he said I can park here. So he goes, call him, can you call him and ask? No, what did he say? I think he said like, can you call him and tell him? No, he said, can you call him so I can talk to him, is what he said. And I'm just like, don't you have his phone number? Like, why are you asking me to call the landlord who's also your landlord? But George looks at me, he's like, just call him. So I move away from them. I move to like across the street, and I'm on the phone with my landlord, and I'm cracking up. I'm like, hi, this is Peris. So my friend George came, and he parked where you told us to park, and the cafe owner is angry at us for parking there. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, the cafe owner is angry and yelling at us for parking there. And he's like, but I told you can park there. And I'm like, yeah, but he's yelling at us. And the landlord is like, okay. There was the detail that I was missing. There was a whole other yelling match well, not we, because I'm not yelling at nobody who's Korean in Korea. But there was a whole other reason why this man was yelling at us. When George had parked, the parking spot that George parked at, the concrete was a little ruined. I don't know what happened, but the concrete was a little broken. So another reason that UG did not want us to park there was because there was broken concrete. And he was like, there's broken concrete. You also can't park here because of that. But in my head, I'm like, you're not the one fixing the concrete. The landlord told me I can park here. Why does it matter? You're not fixing the concrete. That's the landlord's job. Mind you, this is another detail I forgot to tell you guys. Amber always parks there. I just completely forgot to tell you guys. If you're not new in my channel, you know who Amber is. Amber, every time this girl comes to my apartment, she parked at the same spot. Now, I do have to say, she used to come a lot later. Like, she used to come at like 9 p.m. or she would come for like a short time and then leave, but he never used to say anything to Amber. So I'm not sure why he was starting to like knock at us because George was there. Because if you knock, I'm a buck. I'm so sorry about it. Knock and I will buck. Tit, I will tat. So I was like, This is not even a new thing. You've seen me park here before. I completely forgot to tell you guys that. But anyways, I called the landlord. So the landlord actually came down himself. So after the whole back and forth and me telling, so I told the UG, I was like, the landlord's gonna come downstairs to open the parking lot for us, is what I told him. UG was like, okay, thank you. Like, he was trying to be nice to us, but I'm sorry, you've already dropped the ball. Like, you being that extremely like rude to us does not change the fact that I still don't like you. I don't like you no more. Even a sorry wouldn't suffice at this. So anyways, UG goes back to his cafe. The landlord comes downstairs. He like, bro, this man even had pajamas on. That's like how inconvenient of a time this was for him to be coming downstairs to open a parking lot for us. So anyways, he comes downstairs, he greets George, he greets me, and he's like, just back up and stay in front of the parking lot and I'll let you guys in. So me and the landlord walk into the parking lot and go downstairs, and I'm like, George, just come, like, bring your car down. So while I'm talking to the landlord, I hear Paris, and I'm like, huh? And George is like, can you come here? And I start walking up to like the parking lot. So the parking lot is like a little spiral, but I'm not gonna lie, George is not a good driver. This man has been driving for the longest, but he's still not a good driver. He was stuck in the parking, like in the parking, like how you come down in a swirl. I think he underestimated how big his car is and didn't turn fast enough, right? So he was like kind of stuck, right? And he didn't know, like, when I tell you, even all the years I was dating George, I was always like, why are you such a bad driver? Like, I remember being like, you're such a bad driver all the time. So long story short, the landlord had to literally go and be like, turn like this, okay, and then turn like this. Like, he had to give him directions on how to turn so the car can come down to the parking lot. Like, listen, if you can't handle a big car, don't get a big car, okay? Just get a tiny car. Anyways, that happened. It was all good. George spent his days in Seoul. We were good, we were fine. As I had said, George used to come to my apartment often, and every time he came, he's coming with his car. So the second time he was coming, he had said he's gonna come over for like 2 days. I was helping him with some things that he was doing at the time, so I was like, cool, even though he ended up staying for 4 days, but that's not the point. So he ended up coming. I had asked the landlord, I was like, hey, is it okay if George parks downstairs again? And my landlord was like, of course, it's okay, just tell me when he gets here so I can open the garage for you. Now, where this kind of like messed up a little bit is George ended up coming super late. George ended up coming, I would say like 9-10ish p.m. He came at 9-10 p.m. and I didn't want to call the landlord to come downstairs and open the parking lot. Like, I just felt like that's completely rude. Like, I don't know if this man is asleep. Like, I don't want to make, like, I don't want to wake him up from his sleep. So George comes. At this time, this cafe is closed. Like, this cafe closes at like 8 p.m. So I'm like, sir, we're gonna park where we parked before, but in the illegal spot, so you can't say anything, okay? So it's a little hard to explain, but there were 3 parking spots. Remember, next to this man's cafe, there's 3 parking spots, but right before you go into the parking lot, the wall of the parking lot, you can kind of park there and just park in a way that when cars are coming out the parking lot, they don't hit your car, but they have to pass your car. So I always saw the cafe owner parking there. That was like his parking spot. Like, he was always parking there, right? Because it's like not really a parking spot, but it's not exactly an illegal parking spot. Like, the landlord wouldn't say anything if you park there, because you can make it a parking spot as long as it's not bothering the tenants coming out of the parking lot. George comes, I pass the cafe, and I'm like, why is this man still in this cafe? It is like 9 to 11ish. Why are you still in the cafe? But I didn't care. I wasn't gonna talk to him. I wasn't gonna be nice and be like, is this okay that I park in the illegal parking spot that's not yours? Like, I'm not gonna ask. I was like, whatever. The 3 parking spots are empty, and that's all that matters, right? So we're gonna do the parking spot that's not really a parking spot. George comes, he parks in that one like awkward little spot, which, as I said, it's not a parking spot for his cafe. Like, it has nothing to do with his cafe, okay? He parks there, and then we ended up walking up to the apartment, and I'm 100% sure the cafe owner saw us. Like, I'm 100% UG saw us go up to the apartment. So I'm pretty sure he knew we parked there, because even for him, he had parked at one of the 3 spots instead of like the illegal parking spot. He had moved his car to one of the 3 spots, which is crazy, because I was like, look at God. Look at God, because he parked where he usually never parks, making us take the parking spot that's not really a parking spot, that he cannot complain about because it's not a parking spot, or so I thought he can't complain about, okay? So actually what I did is I took a picture of the car. I took a picture of where he parked, and I sent it to my landlord because as I said, I didn't want to call him and like wake him up. I took a picture, sent it to my landlord. I was like, hey, George ended up parking here. I hope this is okay. I didn't want to wake you up, but we didn't park in one of the 3 cafe spots. We ended up parking on the side. Then I sent the picture. The landlord was asleep because he did not reply. We ended up going upstairs. Forget about the incident because I'm like, there's no way UG can complain about us parking there. The next day comes, we end up going to dinner, we come back to the building, and that illegal parking spot is still there. Like, I don't know why the cafe owner wasn't parking there anymore, but he had parked at the one of the 3 cafe spots, but that illegal parking spot was still available. So I was like, maybe the landlord like told this man to just let us park there and he can use the 3 other parking spots for his cafe or whatever. So we're like, look at that, look at God answering our prayers. Now I still don't even gotta call my landlord. All I gotta do is park right there again. So I'm like, George, park right there again, it's fine, it doesn't matter. He parks right there. We call it a day. We go upstairs, like everything is normal. Now this is like day 2 of him being in at my apartment. The next day George was getting a surgery, but because you know when you get surgery you get medicine, you can't be driving, and I don't know. Oh, I remember I was gonna be like, I don't know why he didn't just let me drive his car, but because this car was a little bigger, I wasn't confident because it's also a very expensive car. And listen, I don't got money to be paying for y'all Beamers out here. Zimmer, who got the keys to my Beamer? Anyways, back to the point. So we ended up taking a taxi. I escorted him to his surgery because I was basically there to be like the guardian. Go to his surgery, we finish, take a taxi, we come back, right? So now we came back at like, it's around night at this point, right? But remember, the car is still at the illegal parking spot. Remember that. That car has been there for 2 days now. It's been there for 2 days, haven't moved it, no problem. The landlord has no problem with us parking it there because it's not one of the 3 cafe parking spots. So George goes to sleep, he takes meds, knocks out, right? The next day, I hear his phone ringing. If you guys don't know, every car, well not every, most cars in Korea, they will have their phone number of the owner in the front dash. So if you're ever like, if you ever need somebody to move their car or anything, you just call that phone number and you ask them to move their car, or if there's a problem with their car, you just call that number, tell them there's a problem with your car. So in the morning, I hear George pick up his phone and he's talking, he's like, yo, in Korean, yo, why am I trying to say it in Korean? He's like, hello? And all I hear is the voice of the cafe owner. I am a very light sleeper. I hear the voice of the cafe owner, Yuji. He gives me the phone and I'm like, hello? And he's like, can you move your car? And I'm like, who's this? Call me if you want to. As I said, you knock, I'm a buck, okay? I'm gonna play your games. If you think you can play that game better than me. So I'm like, who's this? He's like, the cafe owner, can you move your car? And I'm like, why do I need to move the car? It's not in one of your parking spots. And he's like, can you move your car? I need to park there so my customers can get the other parking spots. And I'm like, the landlord said it's okay, I can park there. Like, I don't see the problem. The landlord said I can park there. And he's like, okay, I'll call the landlord. He hangs up. I called the landlord in lightning speed. I gave George his phone. I was on Kakao Talk calling the landlord ASAP, no Rocky. Okay, I called the landlord. Bring. The landlord picks up, right? And I'm like, hi, like, you know, the whole spiel again. We've had the car parked at the same spot for 2 days. There was no problem, but now he's like saying we have to move the car. Like, what do you think we should do about this? And he's like, he's angry about you parking there again. And I'm like, yeah. Mind you, this car has been there 2 nights in a row. This was about to be the 3rd day that car is there. And he didn't have a problem with it until now. So the landlord is like, you know what? I'll open the gate for you, just parking the parking lot. And I'm just like, okay. And as I said, the landlord doesn't want to have a problem. Like, this man doesn't want to beef with somebody. Like, why would you beef with anybody who's a tenant with you? So he's just like, I'll just open the parking lot for you. When you get there, just tell me, I'll press the button so you guys can go into the parking lot. I don't even know what the hell I think I just put a hat on and a mask on. I was livid because, one, George had surgery and now you're waking this man up to go move a car that's been there for 2 days, and you've seen this car be there for 2 days and you didn't say anything when you saw us parked there the first time. But now you want to knock. We go downstairs, I get out, this man has his hands folded in front of his cafe. Yuji's just standing in front of his cafe like livid, just hands folded and everything. I have never looked at somebody with a side eye and so hard in my life. I literally, and I just walked away from him. So George is behind me. We get in the car and we're back. We have to move up and then back up so we can go into the parking lot. And even before we get in front of the parking lot, oh my god, Mia's kid, I thought that was a human being for a second. I thought that was a human being. That scared the crap out of me. Even before we had turned the car, Yuji had already brought his car near the like illegal parking spot. So now he's barely giving George any space to turn and face the parking lot. And you can see he was just being petty, which, you know what? That's fine. You be petty. But my thing is, and I think this is something people need to realize, this is not a parking lot. This is not a parking spot. It's not somewhere anybody parks. Like, I don't see the problem with parking there when you have 3 extra parking spots. And mind you, when we came downstairs, the other 2 parking spots were not taken. I don't know which customer was supposed to be parking there because it was still empty. Okay, I just think he woke up on the wrong side of the bed and he was like, let me bother that one girl who lives upstairs. I think that's what it was. The landlord presses the key. We go downstairs, we park, like business resumes as usual, right? After that, he recovered from his surgery. He ended up going back to where he worked and it was all good. But as I said, if you nuck, I'm a buck. If you tit, I shall tots. One thing about my friends, we are ride or dies. If one of us is petty, all of us are petty too, okay? I know it's not mature, but stop messing with people. Like, if you don't want to be messed with, don't mess with people in the first place. And mind you, every time I would pass this cafe owner, he would like give me dirty looks. Like, he would also he would try to make me uncomfortable. One thing's for certain, 2 things for sure, you can't make me uncomfortable. You can't make me uncomfortable. I've been here longer than you. So anyway, this one day, Amber was coming over to my house and Amber knew the whole situation with the cafe owner. Like, she knew about it. Like, interestingly enough, I remember Amber saying she never liked this man. I remember her being like, yeah, I don't really like him. Like, stay away from him. Just, something about him I don't like. Come to find out, yeah, I don't like him either, girl. So she knew about the story, like the whole story. Amber has a big car. Like, Amber has a van. So she has a big van to fit, like, I think 12 people can fit in her van, right? So she came with Queenie, who's her dog at the time, and we were gonna go to my apartment to get something. And I remember her going, do you want me to come up with you? And I was like, yeah, sure, you can come up with me. Just park at the cafe space. Because I'm not gonna call the landlord to tell him to open a gate for a 5-minute visit in my house. Like, that's not happening, okay? So we go to the cafe spot. Mind you, as I had said, Amber has parked here multiple times. It's not the first time she's parking here. It's not the first time Yuji is seeing her. Like, he's seen this girl multiple times because before George, she was always the one parking there, right? But she would always leave. Like, it was never an overnight thing. So anyways, Amber comes, she ends up parking there and there are 2 spots left. So she takes 1 spot, but there are 2 spots that are empty. So you can't even be like, hey, you're taking the only spot, then another customer can come and park. So she parks. We take Queenie out. We're all happy-go-lucky. Like, we didn't even, like, honestly, I'm not even gonna lie, I wasn't thinking about Yuji. I was like, girl, just park. Like, I don't think he's gonna complain about it. You're not staying overnight. You'll be fine. Like, right? So she parks there. We take Queenie out and we're walking to the apartment. Eugene, I keep calling this man Eugene, and I have a friend named Eugene who would never do this. But as soon as we take Queenie out and we're about to walk over to my apartment, Eugene comes out of his cafe like a crackhead. Just, he says, why are you parking there again? I said, Amber, you got this. I said, Amber, talk to your people. I was like, girl, you got it. And she goes, we're not gonna be here for long. And she's like pulling Queenie with us, and he's like, you can't park here, a customer might need to park here. I go, we're not parking here for long. And we're walking as we say this, like, we don't care. Like, we're not gonna be here for long, and there are 2 extra parking spots. Like, calm your down. Like, we stay in my house for maybe, like, honestly, it was like a pick up and leave thing, but you knocked and I have to buck now. We stayed there for like 20 minutes doing absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So we ended up coming downstairs. She ended up leaving, and I remember going, oh, bye, Amber. And then I looked in the cafe and I could see that UG was steaming. And mind you, when we came downstairs, parking lots was still empty because nobody had come to his cafe yet. And I'm like, so what was all that yada 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 for when nobody even came in those 20 minutes? Like, what? So anyways, that was the last time I think I ever really like talked to him. I'm pretty sure Amber ended up parking there once more, but I don't think the times I remember her parking there again, she never left the car. She was always in the car. After that, I don't really remember having like another ordeal with him because I think I ended up moving a year later. I ended up moving out. Every time I saw him still, he would give me a look. I would give him the same look back with the added on for extra effect. I'm like, I don't know what this man thought. Just because I'm young doesn't mean like I'm gonna let you disrespect me and my friends. You think you're gonna disrespect my friends and I'm gonna let it go? You're out of your mind, huh? Especially when I have permission from the person who owns the building. Anyways, guys, tell me, guys, what would you have done? Would you have bucked, or would you just have said sorry and kept your day pushing? I'm not that type of person. Listen, I don't let nobody walk over me. The older I get, the more I'm like, I'm not letting you walk over me. Like, no, I'm too grown for that. Maybe if you met Paris from middle school and high school, maybe some part of my college years, yeah, you would have gotten me who's like very sorry. Oh my god, I'm sorry. You would have gotten that Paris. Not now. Like, no, I don't let nobody walk over me. I don't care if you're Korean. I don't care if you're foreign. You're not gonna walk all over me for something I know I was right to do. Because I'm pretty sure that some people out there would have been like, I don't even know how you can justify his behavior. I don't think Yuji's behavior is justifiable, but there's always a thumb thugger on the internet who finds certain behaviors justifiable. So you know what, justify it for me, okay? Justify it. But as I said, this is one of the 4 people that I absolutely despise in Korea. I don't know if you guys remember, but I did a vlog about Kenya. I think this is coming on to the 2nd year, where I went with my Korean boss at the time to Kenya, and I told you guys I absolutely hate that whole family. So that's gonna be a whole other story, but that's gonna be a series, because it's gonna be like, who TF did I work for? Because I still can't believe that was a phase in my life that I worked for these people, and how much BS I went through with them. So if you guys really want to hear that story, I will make that series soon. I'll probably make it with better sound quality so you guys can hear all the horrible things I went with, and another reason why I am honestly terrified to work for a Korean company ever again. Like, I am terrified to work for a Korean company, okay? Terrified. I think I'd rather work for an American company with an American boss, okay? The treatment is just so different. But there's that. So anyways, guys, that was it for today's video. I'm sorry, it was a long one. Sorry, I thought this was gonna be like a 14-minute story time. We're hitting on like 40 minutes. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. But anyways, guys, that was it for today's story time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye, guys. Bye, guys.
Je, wasikia ninapokuombea.